My husband hid thousands in secret transfers to his parents, claiming it was for their mortgage. I uncovered the truth at his art gallery opening and turned their family lies into a public reckoning. But the real shock came after. The numbers swam before my eyes as I stared at my laptop screen. $3,000 transferred to an account I'd never seen before. Another $4,000 the month prior. The transactions stretched back almost a year, each one a sharp twist in my gut. I'm Emily, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I knew everything about my husband's finances. We'd built our life on transparency, or so I believed. The shared spreadsheets, the joint accounts, the careful planning. All of it now felt like a cruel joke at my expense. Hey babe, have you seen my charcoal pencils? Tom's voice floated down from his studio upstairs. The same voice that had promised me honesty 3 years ago at the altar, the same voice that had apparently been hiding things from me for months. No, I called back, my tone steady despite the tremor in my hands. Tom, could you come down here for a minute? The wooden stairs creaked under his feet. He appeared in the doorway, paint-spattered jeans, and that easy smile I used to find so charming. Now, it just made my stomach turn. What's up? He asked, leaning against the doorframe, casual as ever. Want to explain these transfers to an account under your parents' name? The smile flickered, then died. His shoulders tensed, and for a moment, he looked like a deer caught in headlights. Then the mask slipped back into place. Oh, that. Mom and Dad have been having some trouble with their mortgage. I've been helping them out a bit. A bit. I turned the laptop toward him. $7,000 last month alone, without telling me? They're my parents, Emily. What was I supposed to do? Let them lose their house? You were supposed to talk to me. We're supposed to be partners. He ran a hand through his hair, leaving a streak of blue paint near his temple. You wouldn't have understood. You've always been weird about money. Weird about money? The laugh that escaped me didn't sound like my own. Is that what you call wanting to know where our savings are going? They raised me, Emily. They gave me everything. I owe them. And what about what you owe me? What about our future? I scrolled through the transactions again. This is our down payment for a house, our emergency fund, our future children's college fund. They're family, he said, as if that explained everything. I'm your family too, or at least I thought I was. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and I caught his mother's name on the screen. Of course, Margaret always had impeccable timing. I need to take this, he said, already turning away. No. I slammed the laptop shut. You need to explain why you've been hiding this from me for months. I haven't been hiding anything. I just didn't want to worry you. Didn't want to worry me? The words tasted bitter. Or didn't want me to stop you from bankrolling your parents' lifestyle? His face hardened. You don't understand my relationship with them. You're right. I don't understand lying to your spouse. I don't understand stealing our future to fund your parents' present. His phone buzzed again. This time, he answered it, turning his back to me. Hi, Mom. Yeah, I'm on my way. Just need to grab those papers. I sat there, watching my husband walk away from our marriage, one step at a time, up those creaking stairs to his studio. The truth hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't just fighting Tom's deception. I was fighting Margaret's influence. Years of manipulation I'd been too blind to see. The laptop screen glowed accusingly in the growing darkness. Somewhere upstairs, Tom was probably already arranging another transfer. Another betrayal dressed up as filial duty. Fine. If this was how they wanted to play it, I could play too. But they were about to learn that I played to win. The doorbell chimed just as I finished hiding the bank statements in my home office. Margaret's silhouette loomed through the frosted glass, her shadow stretching across our welcome mat like an omen. Emily, darling. She swept in, designer purse swinging from her arm, bringing with her the cloying scent of expensive perfume. I brought lunch. We need to talk about the garden party next weekend. I forced a smile, knowing exactly what was coming. Every conversation with Margaret was a carefully choreographed dance of criticism wrapped in sugar-coated concern. Actually, I have a work deadline. Nonsense. She was already unpacking containers onto my kitchen counter. Family comes first. That's something modern women seem to forget these days. The way she said modern women made it sound like a disease. I watched her arrange the food with military precision, noting how she'd brought enough for 3 despite knowing Tom was at his studio. Tom tells me you've been asking questions about our financial arrangements, she said, her voice casual, but her eyes sharp as she handed me a plate. I hope you understand how important family support is. Support should go both ways, Margaret. Of course it does, dear. She settled at my kitchen island like she owned it. We've given Tom everything, his education, his artistic opportunities. Now it's natural for him to want to give back. My fork scraped against the plate. With our joint savings? Marriage is about sharing, isn't it? She dabbed her lips with a napkin. Though I suppose that's hard to understand when you're so focused on your career. The word dripped with disdain. I thought about the hidden bank statements, about Tom's betrayal, about all the times Margaret had undermined me while smiling to my face. Actually, I understand sharing perfectly. What I don't understand is secrecy. Oh, Emily. She reached across the counter to pat my hand. I resisted the urge to pull away. You're making such a fuss over nothing. Tom's just being a good son. Surely you don't want to come between him and his family. I am his family. Of course you are, dear. For now. She smiled, showing too many teeth. But blood is thicker than water, isn't it? My phone buzzed, a message from Tom. Mom says you're being difficult about the money. Can we talk later? Of course she'd texted him the moment she sat down. Margaret, I said, setting down my fork. Do you know how much Tom has been transferring to your account? Money is such a vulgar topic of conversation. Not when it's my money being spent without my knowledge. Her smile faltered. Tom knows what he's doing. He doesn't need his wife questioning his decisions about his family. Our family. Our decisions. Our money. You're being very ungrateful, Emily. She stood, gathering her things. After everything we've done for you both, Robert and I have always treated you like a daughter. No, I said quietly. You've treated me like a threat. She paused at the door, her face a perfect mask of hurt confusion. I can see you're upset. We'll discuss this when you're thinking more clearly. The garden party is at 2 on Saturday. We're something appropriate this time. The door clicked shut behind her, but her presence lingered like a bad smell. My phone buzzed again. Tom, asking why I was upsetting his mother. Of course he'd take her side. He always did. I opened my laptop, pulling up our joint account again. A new transaction had posted while Margaret was here. Another $2,000, transferred not 30 minutes ago. She must have texted Tom during lunch, and he'd jumped to do her bidding without a second thought. My hand shook as I took screenshots of everything. 3 years of marriage, and I'd never seen what was right in front of me. I wasn't just fighting financial betrayal. I was fighting a carefully constructed system of control, with Margaret pulling the strings and Tom dancing to her tune. Fine. If they wanted to play family politics, I could play too. But first, I needed to make a call. I picked up my phone and dialed. Samantha, I need your help. It's time to start planning my exit strategy. The gallery opening should have been Tom's moment of triumph. Instead, I stood in the corner, clutching a glass of cheap wine, watching my husband stretch the truth about our financial situation. The series sold remarkably well, he told a potential buyer, gesturing at the abstract canvases lining the walls. Almost everything's been claimed already. I knew better. I'd seen the real sales figures that morning. Exactly 2 pieces sold, and at half the asking price. The rest was fiction, just like our marriage. Emily, Margaret's voice cut through the crowd. She glided toward me in an expensive new dress, Robert trailing behind her like a well-trained shadow. Darling, why are you hiding back here? Come celebrate Tom's success. Success, right? I took another sip of wine, remembering the credit card statement I discovered that morning. $20,000 in new charges, gallery rental, catering, promotional materials, all on our joint card, all without a word to me. The show looks wonderful, I said, the lies tasting bitter on my tongue. Of course it does. We always knew Tom would make it as an artist, Margaret beamed. Though it helped that Robert and I knew the right people to invite tonight. And the new car in your driveway. Did the right people help with that too? Her smile flickered. Robert suddenly found the floor fascinating. Tom insisted, she said. After all we've done to support his career, it's the least he could do. The least he could do with our money, our future. I watched Tom across the room, charming another potential buyer with that easy smile I used to trust. Emily, David from work appeared at my elbow, a welcome interruption. I didn't expect to see you here. David, I didn't know you were interested in art. I'm not usually, but when I saw Tom's name in the paper, he glanced at Margaret, who was watching our interaction with narrowed eyes. Could I borrow you for a minute? There's something you should see. He led me to a quiet corner, pulling out his phone. Remember that audit I mentioned last week? Well, I found something interesting about Thompson Gallery Services. My heart stopped. That was the company Tom had insisted he needed for his art business. The one I'd helped him set up 3 years ago. What about it? The payments don't match the reported income. Not even close. David showed me the screen. Either your husband's the worst accountant in history, or he's hiding money. The pieces clicked into place. The missing funds, the suspicious transfers, Margaret's new car. Emily, Tom's voice behind me. I turned to find him staring at David's phone, his face pale. What are you doing? Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. I held up the phone. Want to explain these numbers? This isn't the time or place. When is the time, Tom? When the account is completely empty. When your parents have bled us dry? Margaret materialized beside him. Emily, you're making a scene. No, mother. I spat the word like poison. I'm finally seeing the scene you've been directing all along. The gallery had gone quiet. Faces turned toward us, hungry for drama. Everything I've done has been for our family, Tom said, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. No, everything you've done has been for their family. I was just a convenient bank account. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I set down my wine glass with deliberate care. I understand that while I was working 60-hour weeks to support your art, you were funneling money to your parents. I understand that every time I sacrificed for our future, you were sacrificing our future for them. Emily, please. I'm done, I said, the words calm and certain. Done with the lies, done with the manipulation, done with all of it. I turned to David. Thank you for showing me this. I'll need copies for my lawyer. Margaret gasped. Tom's face crumpled. But for the first time in months, I felt light, free, certain. I walked out of the gallery into the cool night air, leaving behind the wreckage of my marriage and the sweet satisfaction of finally speaking the truth. My phone buzzed. Samantha, right on cue. Is it done? Yes, I said, smiling into the darkness. It's done, and I'm just getting started. Samantha's kitchen had always been my safe haven, but tonight, even the familiar scent of her signature chai couldn't calm my racing thoughts. 3 missed calls from Tom, 6 from Margaret, and one very interesting email from David about Thompson Gallery Services financial records. They've been living like royalty, I said, scrolling through the documentation David had sent. 5-star restaurants, luxury vacations, spa weekends. All while Tom told me we needed to tighten our belts for his art career. Samantha set a steaming mug in front of me. Have you talked to a lawyer yet? Tomorrow morning. But there's something else. What? The mortgage payments Tom claimed he was making for his parents. Their house was paid off 3 years ago, before our wedding. Samantha's eyes widened. So where did all that money really go? My phone buzzed again, Tom. I silenced it, but not before seeing his message. Please come home. We can fix this. I'll tell you everything. You're not actually considering it, are you? Samantha asked, reading my expression. I don't know what I'm considering anymore. I pushed away from the counter, pacing. 3 years, Sam. 3 years of lies, manipulation, and theft. And you know what the worst part is? I still love him. How pathetic is that? It's not pathetic. It's human. She paused, choosing her words carefully. But love isn't enough when there's no trust. My phone lit up with a text from David. Found something else. Can we meet tomorrow after your lawyer appointment? Emily. Samantha's voice was gentle but firm. What's your endgame here? Revenge? Reconciliation? You need to decide. Before I could answer, someone knocked at her front door. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of Margaret's perfectly coiffed hair. How did she? Tom must have tracked your phone, Samantha said, already moving to block the door. Emily. Darling. Margaret's voice carried through anyway. Please, this family falling apart is breaking Tom's heart. He hasn't eaten, hasn't slept. I felt the familiar pull of guilt, the urge to smooth things over. Then I remembered the financial records, the lies, the years of manipulation. Emily's not available, Samantha called through the door. And if you don't leave, I'm calling the police. This doesn't concern you, Margaret snapped. Emily, think about what you're throwing away. Think about Tom's career, his future, his future. I moved to the door, anger burning away uncertainty. What about my future? The one you've been systematically stealing. We can explain everything. Margaret's voice softened. Come home. We'll talk it through as a family. Family. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Is that what you call people you exploit? Silence from the other side of the door. Then, Roberts had a heart attack. My hand froze on the doorknob. Samantha grabbed my arm, shaking her head. She's lying, she whispered. It's manipulation. He's asking for you, Margaret continued. The doctors say. I yanked open the door. Margaret stood there, perfectly composed. No signs of distress or hospital visits on her designer outfit. Robert's fine, isn't he? I said quietly. This is just another lie. She straightened, mask slipping. Sometimes we do what's necessary to protect our family. No, you do what's necessary to control your family. There's a difference. You ungrateful. Goodbye, Margaret. I closed the door in her face, turning back to Samantha. I think I just found my endgame. Which is, they wanted to play family. I pulled out my phone, pulling up David's message. Let's see how they handle having their perfect family facade torn apart in public. Every lie, every manipulation, every stolen dollar, all of it exposed. Emily, no more guilt, no more manipulation. I typed a quick response to David, meeting confirmed. Bring everything you found. Through the window, I watched Margaret retreat to her luxury car, the one my money had helped buy. Soon, she'd learned that karma wasn't just a concept. It was coming for all of them, and I was going to be its delivery system. The lawyer's office felt too small, too warm as David spread the documents across the mahogany desk. Each paper was another nail in the coffin of my marriage, another revelation that made my hands shake. Tax fraud, David said quietly. Not just misappropriation of funds. They've been using your joint business to launder money for years. My wedding ring caught the fluorescent light as I reached for the papers. 3 years of marriage reduced to spreadsheets and bank statements. How much? Close to $500,000. He hesitated. Emily, this isn't just about divorce anymore. This is criminal. My phone vibrated, another message from Tom. Please come home. Mom's hysterical. Dad's threatening to disown me. We can fix this. I switched it off. What are my options? I asked the lawyer, Catherine Mills, who'd been silently taking notes. We can file criminal charges, she said. But that means public record. Everything comes out. The fraud, the manipulation, all of it. Including my name on those business documents. I added. I signed them too. Under false pretenses, David interjected. We have proof Tom misrepresented. A knock at the door interrupted him. Catherine's assistant stepped in, looking uncomfortable. I'm sorry, but there's a Margaret Thompson insisting on speaking with Emily. She says it's about Robert's health. That trick again. I started to refuse, but David held up his hand. Let her in. You need to hear this. Margaret swept in like she owned the place, but I caught the cracks in her facade. Smudged mascara, trembling hands. Emily, you have to stop this madness, her voice cracked. Robert, the stress. He's had a real heart attack this time. Like the fake one you invented yesterday? This is different. He's in intensive care, the doctor said. Mrs. Thompson, Catherine interrupted. Are you aware that threatening or attempting to manipulate my client would be considered harassment? Margaret's mask slipped completely. You think you're so clever, don't you? Digging up our private affairs, threatening our family's reputation. What about Tom's career? His future? What about my future? I stood, anger finally overwhelming caution. The one you stole? We gave you everything. A place in our family, connections. You gave me lies. I picked up one of the documents. Like this vacation to the Maldives last spring, when Tom told me he was at an art retreat. She paled. That's not. Were these spa weekends? The shopping sprees? All while I worked overtime to support your son's struggling artist lifestyle? Emily, David warned softly, but I was beyond stopping. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. You're going to sign a confession admitting to the fraud. All of you. You, Robert, and Tom. You're going to repay every penny you stole from me. Or I go public with everything. You wouldn't dare. It would destroy Tom. Like you destroyed my trust, my marriage, my financial security. She reached for her phone. I'm calling Tom. Go ahead. I spread the documents across the desk. Tell him to bring his checkbook and a pen. Margaret's hand froze over her phone. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. You're bluffing, she whispered. I pulled out my own phone, pulling up the local newspaper's contact information. Want to bet your country club membership on that? Your social standing? Your freedom? The silence stretched between us like a tight wire. Then Margaret did something I'd never seen before. She crumpled into a chair and began to cry. What do you want? She asked between sobs. I looked at Catherine, who nodded slightly. Everything, I said. And you have 24 hours to decide. As Margaret fled the office, David touched my arm. Are you sure about this? I stared at the documents scattered across the desk, each one a reminder of 3 years of lies. No, I admitted. But I'm sure about one thing. They're about to learn that karma takes Visa, MasterCard, and cashier's checks. The game was changing, and this time, I was writing the rules. The moving truck idled in our driveway as I unlocked the front door for the last time. 24 hours had passed since my ultimatum, and the Thompson family's response had been silence, pure, calculated silence, until now. Tom sat at our kitchen table, head in his hands. Margaret stood by the window, arms crossed, while Robert, apparently recovered from his heart attack, leaned against the counter. You're really doing this, Tom's voice cracked. I set my box of packing supplies on the counter. The movers will be in soon. You might want to clear out. Emily, Robert stepped forward, his usual passivity replaced with something harder. We've spoken to our lawyers. They say you're equally liable for any financial irregularities. Mutual assured destruction. I laughed. That's your play? We're trying to protect our family, Margaret snapped. Your family? I pulled out my phone, showing them the screen. Like these photos of your Maldives vacation, the one where Tom was supposedly at an art retreat. The society pages would love these. Tom's head snapped up. You wouldn't. Try me. The movers appeared in the doorway. I gestured them toward the stairs, but Margaret blocked their path. This is still our house. Actually, I cut in, it's not. Check the deed. I bought it with my income while Tom was struggling to launch his career. You vindictive little, Margaret began. Mom. Tom stood suddenly. Can you give us a minute? Margaret opened her mouth to protest, but Robert touched her arm. They left, Margaret's heels clicking against the hardwood like tiny hammers. I loved you, Tom said quietly once we were alone. I still love you. Love doesn't empty bank accounts. I can explain everything. Save it. I turned to the movers. Start upstairs, master bedroom. Tom grabbed my arm as I tried to pass. Please, just listen. Mom and Dad, they sacrificed everything for my art. When they needed help, they manipulated you into stealing from your wife. I crap away. And you let them. We can fix this. Pay you back. With what money? The gallery's failing, Tom. Your parents are broke. And you. I gestured around our house, at all the things we'd built together. You never really wanted this, did you? A real marriage, a partnership. You wanted a bank account with a pulse. His face crumpled. That's not fair. Neither is fraud. The movers thundered down the stairs with our bedroom furniture, my furniture now. Tom watched them carry out pieces of our life together, each item a silent accusation. If you do this, he said, voice low, if you expose everything, you'll destroy us all, including yourself. I pulled out an envelope. Then sign a confession. Admit what you and your parents did, pay me back, and I'll keep quiet. You know we can't afford, sell the vacation house, Margaret's jewelry, your father's collector cars. I stepped closer. Or I press charges, and everyone learns how the respected Thompson family has been operating. Your choice, Tom. But choose fast, my lawyer's waiting. He stared at the envelope, hands shaking. Then Margaret burst back in. Don't you dare sign anything. She snatched the envelope. We'll fight this. You'll what? I turned to the movers. Take everything except his art supplies. Those were bought with stolen money anyway. Margaret ripped the envelope to shreds. You think you've won? We'll destroy you. Every connection, every opportunity. Mom, stop. No, she needs to learn. I walked out while they argued, leaving them to their mutual destruction. Outside, David waited in his car, ready to follow the moving truck to my new place. You okay? He asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I watched Tom and Margaret's silhouettes through the window, still fighting, still trapped in their toxic dance. 3 years of my life, gone. My financial security in shambles, my reputation potentially ruined. No, I admitted, but I will be. I pulled out my phone and opened the email I drafted to the local newspaper. My finger hovered over send as David started the car. Sometimes karma needed a little push. The newspaper headline: Local artist family accused of financial fraud. My finger trembled over the screen as social media notifications flooded my phone. The Thompsons' carefully constructed facade was crumbling, one share at a time. I hadn't pressed send on that email. Someone else had beaten me to it. My new apartment's doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Tom, looking haunted. Margaret stood behind him, her perfect makeup unable to hide her rage. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. How did you find me? I asked. David, Tom said quietly. He thought we should talk. Of course, David's misplaced sense of fairness. I'd have to deal with that betrayal later. There's nothing to discuss. You destroyed us, Margaret hissed. Are you happy now? I didn't publish that story. Liar. She tried to push past me, but I held my ground. Robert did. The words hung in the air like smoke. Tom's face went slack with shock. Margaret grabbed the doorframe for support. What? Check your phone, I said. He's probably confessed to everything by now. Tom pulled out his phone, hand shaking. His father's message was there, just as I predicted. I'd received my own copy an hour ago. Dad would never. He stopped, reading, color draining from his face. Turns out your father has a conscience, I said. Unlike some people. Margaret snatched the phone, her carefully manicured nails clicking against the screen as she read. Her mask finally cracked completely. That weak-willed fool, she spat. After everything I've done for this family, everything you've done. Tom's voice cracked. Mom, you're the one who told me to hide the transfers from Emily. You're the one who, I was protecting you. Your art, your future. My future. He laughed, bitter and hollow. Look around, Mom. My marriage is over, my reputation is ruined, the gallery's finished. What future? I watched them unravel, feeling strangely empty. This was my revenge, served not by my hand, but by karma itself. We can fix this, Margaret insisted, turning to me. Emily, if you just tell everyone it was a misunderstanding, like you told everyone Robert's heart attack was real? She flinched. Or how about the art sales you faked? The tax records you doctored? I pulled out my phone. Should I keep going? Please, Tom whispered. Emily, I'm sorry. I'll do anything. It's too late. I stepped back into my apartment. Robert's confession is just the beginning. The police have everything. Margaret's face contorted. You vindictive little. Mom, stop. Tom grabbed her arm. Haven't you done enough? For the first time, I saw Tom stand up to his mother. Too little, too late. I loved you, I told him quietly. But love without trust is just another form of manipulation. You taught me that. Emily, goodbye, Tom. I started to close the door, then paused. Oh, and Margaret, the country club called. They're revoking your membership. Apparently, fraud doesn't fit their image. Her scream of rage was cut off by the closing door. I leaned against it, listening to their arguing voices fade down the hallway. My phone buzzed, a message from Robert. It's done. I'm sorry for everything. The police have my full statement. Another buzz. David, I'm sorry I told them where to find you, but you needed this closure. And finally, Samantha, you okay? I looked around my new apartment, at the boxes still waiting to be unpacked, at the fresh start I'd bought with 3 years of pain and betrayal. No, I typed back, but I will be. I walked to the window, watching Tom help his sobbing mother into their car. No, her car, bought with my money. Soon, they'd learn just how expensive karma could be. The Thompson family was about to discover that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't what you do to others. It's letting them destroy themselves while you walk away free. The last box from my old life arrived on my doorstep, unexpected and unasked for. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, lay my wedding album and a letter in Tom's messy scrawl. I set the album aside without opening it and unfolded the letter. The words blurred, then sharpened. Emily, Dad took a plea deal. Mom's facing trial. The gallery's finished. You won, or maybe we all lost. I don't know anymore. My phone buzzed. Samantha, sending me a link to another news article. Margaret Thompson, society maven, charged with financial fraud. The mighty had fallen, their empire of lies crumbling to dust. I crumpled Tom's letter but couldn't quite throw it away. Not yet. The doorbell rang. David stood there, holding coffee and looking uncertain. Thought you might want company, he said, then noticed the box. Oh, bad timing. Perfect timing, actually. I grabbed my coat. Let's go somewhere else. We walked to the park where Tom had proposed, though I didn't tell David that. The autumn air carried the scent of endings and beginnings. Robert called me. I said, watching a family play frisbee nearby. He's testifying against Margaret. says Tom finally moved out of their house. Are you okay? I considered the question, really considered it. I thought revenge would feel better than this, but you didn't actually do anything. They destroyed themselves. You just stopped protecting them from the consequences. A jogger passed, leaves crunching under her feet. In another life, that could have been me, running from my problems instead of facing them. The detective handling their case called. I continued. Asked if I wanted to press additional charges. And I said no. I sipped my coffee, letting the warmth spread through my chest. Enough people have been burned by this fire. David nodded, understanding what I wasn't saying. Sometimes the best revenge was simply walking away, head held high. My phone buzzed again, an email from my lawyer. The divorce was final. No contests, no delays. Tom had signed everything without argument. You know what the strangest part is? I said, closing the email. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just free. A child's laughter carried across the park, pure and unburdened. I thought about the wedding album sitting in that box, about the young woman who'd smiled so hopefully at the camera, believing in forever. What will you do now? David asked. Live, I said simply. On my own terms. We walked back to my apartment, in comfortable silence. The box still sat by the door, Tom's crumpled letter beside it. Want help getting rid of that? David gestured at the box. No. I picked up the letter, smoothing it out. One line caught my eye. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to be the man you deserved. At least he'd finally told the truth about something. I struck a match, watching the flame dance. The letter caught quickly, curling into ash in my kitchen sink. The wedding album would go to Goodwill. Let someone else's memories live in those pages. Emily, David hesitated at the door. There's an art exhibition next weekend. Nothing fancy, just local artists. If you'd like to, not yet, I said gently, but ask me again sometime. After he left, I stood at my window, watching the city lights blink on one by one. Somewhere out there, the Thompsons were facing their own darkness, their carefully constructed world falling apart. But that wasn't my story anymore. I opened my laptop, pulling up the novel I'd started writing, not about revenge or betrayal, but about redemption, about a woman who learned that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying your enemies, but in refusing to let them destroy you. The cursor blinked, waiting. Outside, a siren wailed, then faded. The city moved on, indifferent to personal dramas and private wars. I began to type.